Hi, everybody. This is Jon Schallert, and welcome to our Destination Business Strategies session this morning. It's 11 o'clock Mountain Time in November 23rd, and we're going to be talking about strategies to drive customer traffic and drive revenue during this pandemic. Now, what I'm going to do is share my screen with all of you, and when I do that, we're going to hold on. I'll show you how what I see. All right, so Katie Gleason, Mike Ritter, and Gigi, you three are the top. I see you guys on the side screen. What you should see, and Katie or Mike or Gigi, nod your head. Do you see a big screen that says Destination Tools for Independent Businesses? Man, I am in the right place. I am just nailing it this morning. We're supposed to have actually 33 states and Canadian provinces with us this morning on this session, and there are several people, lots of people, who didn't come this morning, who are now in the waiting room. So if you leave, you will be replaced. So I'd suggest you stick around. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, for some of you know me, some of you have been to my Destination Boot Camp. Some of you heard me speak before, some of you have not. First, let me just point out a little bit about my background. I started when I was 28 years old in the world of retail, working for Hallmark Cards. I was with them for 10 years. And real briefly, I had no retail experience at all. I think they liked me that I would say my mind and not follow any kind of corporate track. My claim to fame with them is I was part of a team of 4 people that worked on what they called the Destination Store rollout to 5,200 stores nationwide. They were one of the first corporations that said, we're going to make a store a destination store, a store that pulls from beyond its marketplace. Now, retail stores are not the only destinations. Restaurants can be destinations, service businesses can be destinations, professional practices like chiropractors and reflexologists, they can be destinations. So any type of consumer-oriented business can be a destination. But when I was with Hallmark for 10 years, from the age 28 to 38, I thought I'd really pretty much known everything. You know, at 38, you think you're pretty smart. And so I went out on my own, and I had one 90-minute workshop. And the first people that embraced my ideas were downtown organizations. This is one of the cities, one of the first 87 cities I visited in my very first year. I was in 87 different cities with a 90-minute workshop. My workshop would go like this. I'd start at 8 in the morning, go to about 9:30 in the morning, and I was done. And if you missed it, they really weren't that good. They were generalities, vague stories, nothing really specific. But what they would do, what really happened is after that 8 to 9:30 90-minute workshop, what they would do is these business owners and community leaders would take me door to door. So here in Madison, Indiana, which is in southern Indiana, right across the Ohio River from Kentucky, they walked me to 10 to 15 businesses. And I can go back and even look at the records of who I saw on those times. And sometimes I would go to a state, I'd hit a whole state in a week. I'd go to Mississippi and hit 5 cities in 5 days, or Maine or New Hampshire or Oregon or Wyoming. And in a course of a week, I'd see 50 to 75 businesses after I'd done 5 90-minute workshops. Now in that process, I'd sometimes go to small communities like Madison, Indiana. Sometimes I was in big cities. Here I'm in Chicago. I'm in a section of Chicago, and there downtown, there's a fur store, Mink Stoll's store behind me. So you can tell it's a really wealthy area. The difference between Madison, Indiana and downtown Chicago seems like a lot, but it's really not that different. Here, this business is trying to pull in more consumers, has lots of competition, high expenses, and they're trying to figure out what to do right to pull people in when so many people are pulling from the same pool. Same thing in Madison, Indiana. They're trying to figure out how to get their small pool of customers who are around them to shop them and to get people from a distance. So the problems and the challenges of a small community are the same ones in a large. They're just accelerated. You'll see that as we go through the presentation. Now, sometimes I would be in places like Fredericksburg, Texas, and I'd have business owners come up to me and say, you know what, I'm a destination business. You should come see me. So John and Marilyn Thomas were at a town called Fredericksburg, Texas, which is in the Texas Hill Country west of Austin. And they said, you got to come see our place. We have a destination farm, the Wild Seed Farm Company. And I said, exactly, what kind of farm is it? He said, well, mostly we sell wildflower seeds, but we've got a lot of other stuff. So when I went out, and I want to show you the demographics of Fredericksburg, Texas. If you haven't been there, it's a great, great little town. They have 8,911 people in Fredericksburg, Texas, and you've got a median household income of about $43,670. All right. So I go there, meet John and Marilyn Thomas, and I would walk around with a cassette recorder, and I'd walk around with a pad, and I'd write down people's questions, and I'd write down what I learned. Well, I walked into something I had never seen before, a 12,000 square foot entryway, and all big cedar beams. And John and Marilyn were showing me around. John's going, over there's Marilyn's dress shop, and I've got my Texas barbecue room in the back. Back there, we've got a nursery. Over there's a landscape company. Over here's my Texas wine room. He's walking me around so quickly, and I'm following him with my cassette recorder, recording everything. And I asked him, one of the questions I always ask owners is, do you mind me asking you how much you do, how much volume, what's your sales volume of your business? And John said, man, I can't tell you that, buddy. I don't know you well enough. He said, but I'll tell you this. Last year, we ran 375,000 people through our doors. Now, how do you run 375,000 people through your doors of a business when you've only got 8,900 people in the town? Now, Fredericksburg does have a tourism component to it, but not every business runs 375,000 people through their doors. John and Marilyn, they've shared with me over the years some of the things they've done, some of the things they've learned. And as I would pick the brains of these people who had these destinations, I started to become smarter. Let me show you this business. This was a business in Hartville, Ohio. I actually spoke at a hardware convention, and somebody said, you got to meet Howard Miller, the owner of the Hartville hardware store. I said, where's Hartville? And I've never heard of Hartville, Ohio. And they said, oh, Hartville, Ohio has 2,944 people in it. We've got a population of that and a median household income of this. And we're the home of the world's largest hardware store. I said, Howard, I have to come see this place. The world's largest hardware store in a town of 2,900 people. Sure enough, when I went there, this is the view from Howard's window. Howard and his family run the Hartville hardware store, over 300,000 square foot hardware store in this little town. And to give you an idea of 300,000 square feet, it's a Home Depot and a Lowe's and a football field all next to each other with a roof over the top. Now, knock my lamp over here. And in that process, I started asking Howard questions, and I said, how do you, did you start out as a hardware store? No, he said, we started out as a livestock auction house. He was telling me his whole story. I got to show you what it looks like from the air. Here's what it looks like from the air. By the way, I worked with these guys one summer for several months. In the back, they have a place called the Hartville Marketplace. It's a flea market that pulls in over 1 million people. They've got a salad dressing plant. They've got an Amish restaurant to the right. They've got all sorts of different things on top of this, being the world's largest hardware store. And the family has its own subdivision. I got to see their subdivision. They all live. A lot of them live next to each other, which is pretty cool. Kind of scary too sometimes. I wouldn't want to live next to all my family. Let me show you this place. This is the very first place I ever spoke. This is the very first place I met a destination business that was not a Hallmark store. This is Atchison, Kansas. In Atchison, Kansas, I met a business owner named Mary Carol Garrity, who owned a business called Nell Hills. Now, the population of Atchison, Kansas is just a little over 10,000 people. And this is the median household income, so it's not a wealthy place. But this is Mary Carol's business where she had Nell Hills. Nell Hills was a furniture store, a home decor store, a gift store. She also did drapery and fabric and things like this. And she took me and walked me through this 2-story building. And we went up and we walked around, and there are all these little rooms, and we went into all the places that they have windows. And I came back downstairs. Now, this is my very first speaking engagement after I'd left Hallmark Cards. And I said to Mary Carol, do you mind telling me what kind of sales volume you do in this business? And I'm expecting maybe she does $100,000 or $200,000 based on my experience with Hallmark Cards and my vast 10 years of experience. And she turns to me and said, John, we did pretty well last year. We did $2.9 million. $2.9 million. I said, what do you sell everything to everybody in Atchison? She said, actually, I sell more things to people outside of town. I get people from Kansas City and Omaha and Des Moines and Chicago. And she starts naming off all these far places, St. Louis and Denver. And we've had people drive out from Dallas. And she starts telling me all these stories. And I'm like, how'd you do this? How'd you make a business that pulls this kind of volume? And she said to me, I still remember her words, we just got lucky. Well, I learned as I interviewed her over the years and as I studied her and saw the things she did, it wasn't luck at all. It was a very strategic step-by-step process she went through. She just was doing it kind of naturally. Now, she didn't learn anything really from me. I came back a year and a half later and did a training for her, which was probably okay. I don't think it was really great. She was up to 4.2 million by then. She eventually got it up to this business up to 6 million in this building. And then she actually closed the business because she wanted to focus on a higher volume store. Not many people walk away from a $6 million business. But as I would meet these business owners, it took me about 3 or 4 years of literally interviewing over 1,000 businesses a year before I saw a process. I've never taken a marketing class, but I ask really good questions and I have a good memory and I remember things and I see patterns. And so after interviewing people like John and Marilyn Thomas and Mary Carol Garrity and different people like this and realizing, oh, they all did the same thing first. And this is what followed. And this is what they did. I came up with this 14-step pyramid that we're going to talk about today. Now, this 14-step pyramid is what I exclusively teach. This is a strategy. It's a business strategy to make your business unique and to stand out when competitors are not doing this strategy. They're using another route. Now, to give you an idea of what the word strategy means, because it took me a while to understand the word strategy, I talked to a guy who summits people up Mount Everest. This is what it looks like from the top of Everest, 5.5 miles high. And he said to me, John, I was asking him all these questions about, how difficult it is to climb Everest and is it related to businesses and all this. I was trying to find some analogy. And he said to me, John, the first thing you start with before you even think about climbing Everest is you decide which strategy you're going to use to climb it. And I said, what? I mean, what's the strategy? You get ropes and you have to be in shape and you have to have good boots and oxygen. And he said, no. There are 16 known ways to climb Everest. You've got to start right from the beginning and say, what's the route I'm going to take? What's the way I'm going to try to conquer this? So a strategy is a route. What I'm going to show you is a different route than most of you have ever been taught. And it's a way that really works well during this pandemic. So a destination business is a business that's so compellingly unique that customers say that's the only place I'm going to buy. That's the place I'm going to go. What we're trying to create is that choice where a consumer says, that's the only place for me. Now, all of you have been to destination businesses. All of you have been to and said, I've got to go to this place. Jody, I'm muting you there. And all of you have been to businesses like that. And you've also been to places where you've said, you know what? I know exactly where I'm going to go for this. That is the feeling you get when you're a destination business. Now, in this process, how do people learn this process? I'm going to spend 90 minutes with you talking about this, but how else can you learn it? Well, one of the ways you learn it is by going through a 3-day, now it's a 3-day online class of 15 hours with me called my Destination Bootcamp. When you go through that, you're going to learn that the most important parts of this pyramid are the 8 strategic steps that we're going to focus on today. These bottom steps are the steps that cause a consumer to go, oh, I've never heard of a business like that. You're magnifying your components of your business that a consumer has never heard of or seen before. Now, most business owners think that it's what's going to make them stand out. It's going to be their advertising or their marketing or their internet or their social media or their publicity. Now, those are all important. That gets the message out to the world. But the bottom core components are these 8 strategic steps. And it all determines if a consumer considers you to be unique. Now, the word unique doesn't mean different. The word unique means one of a kind. Are you one of a kind? Where somebody says, I've never heard of a place like that. That's the reaction we have to get. Now, this 14-step strategy used to be taught in my historic building in downtown Longmont, Colorado, where we would assemble about 30 people in a room and I would talk for 3 days and you get great snacks and all that. Well, this was one of our last classes that we had. In fact, we've got a couple of people from Denison, Texas, who are in this picture, who are on this call. This class, by the way, Denison, Texas is a very interesting city. Denison, Texas sent 8 people to our boot camp in October of 2019. And 15 weeks later, they sent another 11 people to our boot camp in February of this year, February 2020. So do the math, that's 19 community leaders and business owners who all came and took the same class, and they were part of a program called the Community Reinvention Program, where when a city or a town or a county sends an entire group of people. So I'll reference that. Anybody can come to the Destination Boot Camp. To be part of the Community Reinvention Program, you have to be part of a group of business owners who are all from the same marketplace. Now we do our destination boot camps online. That everything changed in mid-March, just my business, just like yours. By the way, at the very end, I'm going to give all of you a promotion code that you can use for 2 of our upcoming destination boot camps in 2021. And it's a discount promotion code, and only if you're listening to this video are you going to be able to get that promotion code. So stick around to the very end. You know, when the bottom dropped out in mid-March and all of my speaking engagements stopped, the one thing that people wanted me to talk about was this COVID-19 business strategy. I call them town halls. I literally customize 2 hours for your community, take the questions from your people, design the session, and then we deliver it. And this session, by the way, was done with, you're seeing here, Fort Collins, Colorado. They had 79 downtown business owners all on the same call. We also have a class called the Destination Creation Course. I don't teach that. I actually have webinars that I've recorded, and we have facilitators that teach it. We have several facilitators on this call. In fact, a couple of them are in this picture. But this is now our facilitation class. Is called the Destination Train the Trainer class. So if you'd like to teach my condensed version of my boot camp, you could do that as by becoming a facilitator. Now, when the bottom dropped out in mid-March, when COVID and everything locked down, we quickly built a website, Successful Independent Business website, successfulindependentbusiness.com, and I'm going to give you different things that are on this site that you might want to see. So let's talk. So that's my introduction. Let's talk about what's going on in America and in North America today. So literally, the whole situation with businesses, I'd like to say it's all the same, but it's totally uneven. It's uneven in different industries. It's uneven on the same street. I like to reference, I've got a butcher in Longmont, Colorado, a meat market that he really doesn't do social media. He doesn't advertise. I think he just dropped his Yellow Page ad a year ago. Literally does hardly any marketing. He's up double digits. It just happens, you know, people are hoarding meat right now, so it's pretty easy for him. Then around the corner from him, he's got a business that's struggling like mad because of the COVID shutdowns and the way consumers are acting. So it's happening differently for every individual business. And right now we are in the United States, at least, we're in another wave, a wave of the virus. And the virus, of course, is different in different parts of states and different counties and cities and towns. One thing we do know is consumers are stressed. Some of them have lost their jobs. Some of them have their kids at home. Some of them are just worried about getting sick. There's lots of reasons. Whatever you think about the COVID-19 virus, it doesn't really matter. The virus really doesn't care. One of the things that makes everybody panicked is we're in the fourth quarter, and so many businesses rely on that fourth quarter to generate revenue in their profits for the entire year. So as I had one business owner say to me, you know, can you help me save Christmas? How are we going to do that? I'm going to show you some of the ways that if you incorporate these things, you can still bring revenue in, even if the worst case scenario happens. And then, you know, businesses, they've really adapted with some creative changes. When we talk about this, here's some of the typical things that you're all seeing, you know, pickup and delivery and shipping and online sales. That was, you know, something everybody kind of went through. I don't really call this a pivot. You hear in the news, people say the businesses pivoted. A pivot is really a different thing that I'll reference for you. Pivot comes from a book I'm going to show you in a second here. These are really smaller adaptations that businesses have been willing to do. Restaurants, you know, sitting outside, you know, prepaying their meals, having prepaid 4- and 6-course event meals, simplifying the menu to save on food costs, make preparation more simple. You know, everybody's altering hours, doing reservation shopping and dining. That helps lock people into showing up and making things more expected. You know, this reservation, people making reservations to come in and shop, you know, you're seeing that sometimes even though you've had customer traffic decreases, the revenue can still be high. And of course, fewer customers are going indoors. In some places right now, customers, restaurants, some restaurants in the country like Colorado, they're not going indoors at all. So there's a book by Eric Rice called The Lean Startup. I don't really recommend you to read it. It's not the easiest read to do, but one of the things he references is a term called the pivot. And the pivot is a strategic change that generates additional revenue from another source, maybe with a different group of customers or a different product line or a different service. Now, I want to tell you about a pivot. So this is my daughter. This is my daughter, Jon Schallert. Some of you guys met her when she worked for our company for about 10 years. She was our technology expert. She really didn't like technology that much. She just did it. She was really helping us out. And eventually she just said, you know, this isn't what I want to do. I want to start a nonprofit that helps people who are in need of food. So she moved to Southeast Kansas. She bought 180 acres and she started raising chickens and cattle and cows. And right now she has 1,000 chickens and she has 130 cows on 180 acres out there. And when she processes the meat or the chickens lay the eggs, she gives all that food away. So with this nonprofit, one of the things that Jenna was doing, at first she started out like many of us, and she did pretty much everything herself. She lugged these big 30-pound water jugs, and chickens drink a lot of water, so you have to carry these things into the chicken coop. She would pour out buckets of feed by hand, and then when the chickens, clean the stalls all by herself, and then when the chickens would lay the eggs, she would pick up all the eggs. Of course, they're not clean. Then you have to go and scrub them. You got to scrub the eggs. She would scrub them by hand, sometimes 2 hours scrubbing, 150 eggs. She'd scrub them by hand herself. Sometimes her husband had helped too. Corey's a good guy. But she pivoted. And I want to give you an example of what a real pivot is. So one of the guys who was working on and building a new chicken coop for her said to her, you know what, my uncle is over in Missouri about 4 hours away. And I know, Jenna, you have several hundred chickens, but he's got 14,000 chickens and he works less hard than you. Well, Jenna and Corey drove over and saw this guy, and he had everything automated. He had the waters, little drip waters for all the chickens, and they could roam around anywhere. They weren't in little boxes or anything like that. They could roam around and be in the rafters and all that stuff, and they'd go outside. But the water was done automatically. The feed was done automatically. When the chickens laid their eggs in the nesting box, it was taken away by a conveyor belt, put into a room, and then you could individually take it through an egg washing machine. That one change, when Jenna saw that one solution from one person and said, oh, yeah, I do this. And by the way, I power it all with a battery, small car battery, and mostly solar. She realized there's an easier way. That's what I'm going to be talking about today, because a lot of business owners don't need to know everything about everything, but they do need to know silver bullets. They need to know how to pivot quickly and generate revenue. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, the first thing I want you to realize is this is not going to be a webinar about all the local resources that are out there, the state and national and regional resources that are available to you. That's not this webinar. There are lots of lists that you can find and lots of places that you can call up and talk to other people. But my point is, you've got to know this stuff. And I'm going to use an example, and I think Elsie's on our call right here. Here's Elsie Russell from Two Chicks Home and Market. And Elsie is in Denison, Texas, part of those 19 people that came to our destination boot camp from Denison, Texas. Now, what happened with Elsie, she actually attended our class 6 days after there was a fire 2 doors down from her. Elsie, this picture, you probably have seen this. This is the picture from the television channel 12, and the nail salon 2 doors down had a fire that totally gutted that building. But Elsie's business got everything in it, got filled with smoke, and they had to move. They had to get rid of all the merchandise and move. Now, Elsie's in the back left, in the second, next to the back row, we're holding up a XXX root beer bottle with blonde hair and a green kind of a coat on in the left side picture, second from the left. And so one of the people that came to the Destination Boot Camp was William Myers. He was involved with Destination Development Alliance, the Denison Development Alliance in Denison, Texas, the economic development person. And he rolled out a program, seeing how, when COVID hit, seeing how people needed to know how to be online and to sell online. He rolled out a thing called an e-commerce accelerator incentive. Now, I've seen a lot of innovative programs, but this is one of the most innovative I've seen in all of North America. There's lots of things communities are doing, but this is one I wanted to highlight. So what happened is this program was a 75-25 grant, and the Economic Development Group from Denison, working with their city, would give up to $6,000 if a business owner would match it with $2,000. And Elsie jumped online and purchased a point of sale system and purchased video equipment and ways that she was able to record her trainings. The Two Chicks market, what they were able to do is, instead of doing craft classes together, now Elsie was able to record these classes. She was able to have people do these kits, and people would pick these up and they could do them at home. They did paint furniture. They sold do-it-yourself painting furniture, paint in the background there. And then as part of this, Williams Group, Economic Development Group, one of the things that he did is he had little stickers that went on every package, gave these to every one of the businesses in Denison. And so you could put this sticker on, and if you scan that code, it took you right to the Denison Convention and Visitors Bureau. And as things happen, when things happen that are really exceptional, and you let the world know about it, the GoDaddy group, which has an international blog that's followed by, hundreds of thousands of people, wrote about how Denison, Texas went digital, not just to survive, but to thrive in the COVID era. And we're gonna, when we get to the very end, Elsie, if you want to add a little bit about this, I'd love to have you share your thoughts. Second thing is this. Step number 2 in really dealing with this COVID pandemic and becoming a destination business is you have to create what I call customer insistence. Now, when I say customer insistence, it means a consumer is going to say, that's the only place for me. And again, this is the definition of a destination business that we've already covered. That's the only place I'm going to buy. Now, I learned a lot when, back in the early 2000s, Kellogg Cereal City hired me in Battle Creek, Michigan. They had a cereal museum there, and they needed help pulling more customers to it. And one of the things I realized was customer insistence really depended a lot on what the message that business sent out to the world. And I realized from working with Kellogg, that at Kellogg's at the time, that a business could draw from 5 different, very specific consumer time zones. And when I say a time zone, I mean the 15 minutes and the 15 to 60 minutes around a business. Now, your local marketplace are the 15 minutes around you. If you're really, really a different business, you're able to pull people from over 3 hours away. Now, why does this apply today? It applies today because you have to be decidedly different and unique to pull people to you during a pandemic. When people are worried about going out, maybe their revenue and their own income has dropped, and how do you get them to come to you? Now, one of the ways business leverage, one of the things that businesses leverage in their marketing is a tagline. This is Allstate's tagline. You're in good hands. All right, that's their tagline. By the way, that tagline was developed in 1950, and they've used it for the last 70 years. Now, a tagline, I think, is effective if you have $1 million or higher advertising budget, and you can repeat something time and time and time again, because it becomes a memory jog for people. Most independent businesses, I don't think, have that kind of budget and don't have that kind of time. So I found the toughest part of the whole destination process is what I call unique positioning. Coming up with a singular statement with a powerful first sentence that says how your business is different, not from just people in your marketplace, your city, your town, your downtown, your county, your state, but how are you different from everybody? If you're a restaurant, how are you different from every other restaurant? If you're a shoe store, how are you different from every other shoe store? In your industry, everybody who sells against you, how are you totally unique? So a unique positioning statement is the first step in creating insistence. A unique positioning statement is a factual statement. It's not an advertising statement. When we've been taught you have to go to a Chamber of Commerce mixer, and when people go to the Chamber of Commerce mixer, they say, be sure to have your elevator pitch ready. This is not about a pitch. It's not a selling sentence. All right. It's about what we are that nobody else is. It's putting it in a very simple way. And it's that first sentence that's the most important one. Now, a tagline is always going to sound kind of marketingish. It's going to have a ring to it, but that's designed to be a a memory jog, not something that's specific. So if you're developing a unique positioning statement, it actually is very formulaic. You're going to say the name of your business is the, and then you're going to state what it is. And you want to do this in a very balanced, truthful way. And ideally, you're going to use power words like we're the home of, or we're the first, or we're the only, or we're the home for, or the source for, or we're the oldest or the newest. Anything that makes you a singular something. And it's important that you just don't connect on one thing. Most unique positioning statements have multiple points of uniqueness put together. So you can use this formula to start working on your own unique positioning statement. I could literally speak for 4 or 5 hours on this. We literally spend about that much time going through everybody's unique positioning statement at the boot camps, but it's something that I can show you really pretty clearly here. Now, the Hartville hardware store has it easy. These guys have it easy. They're the world's largest hardware store. Now, the Hartville hardware people, they didn't want to take the world, so they said we're America's largest hardware store. But there's only one largest. You don't have to be the largest. Every independent business is an only something. That's the essence of being an independent business. Everybody is if we dig deep enough, we can come to their uniqueness. Here is a restaurant that this was on one of their pages. We are a scratch kitchen. Well, that doesn't tell me how you're unique. There are a lot of scratch kitchens in North America. That tells me in a very general way what you are, but generalities are not powerful. Specifics are where you find the power. I love these guys. This is James and Sonia Cantrell down in Independence in Coffeyville, Kansas. They were in my destination boot camp, and James turned to Sonia and said, you know what? I took a class years ago where I got this certification from this jewelry institute, and I think I'm the only one in the state of Kansas who has this. And they worked on this and they developed it, and this is their first sentence of their unique positioning statement. Cantrell's Jewelry is Kansas's only certified master jeweler specializing in custom design and heirloom restoration. Now, I want you to, this simple phrase actually is brilliant. We are Kansas's only, so they've decided that's the location they're going to own. We're Kansas's only certified master jeweler. That's the class that James took. Specializing in, now here come the other two components, custom design and heirloom restoration. Now what they did is now you lead with this. This is the first step in pulling people to your business when you have lots of competition. In fact, this pulls people from literally hundreds of miles away to those two small towns. Here's Gigi Dominguez's business. I remember when Gigi was in our boot camp class, and she's on the call right now. Gigi, do you still have this? Do you still have this banner? You have to unmute yourself.
So yes, we still have that banner hanging. Draws a lot of attention. And then we also use our unique positioning statement everywhere, right on the banner of our website, business cards, rack cards. We use it everywhere. So, and it's been really effective.
And thank you, Gigi. And one of the things about this, if you think about it, I remember when you were kind of going through class and you were trying to figure out exactly what you were. It's a really simple statement. We're Winter Park's longest running family-owned and operated ski shop. But there's a lot involved here. It's not only family-owned, it's the longest running, and it's still operated by the family in Winter Park. And there's all sorts of now reactions that happen when when consumers see an independent business and identify with it immediately. But it can be extremely powerful, but that's how this whole process starts. Let's talk about step 3. One of the things I tell businesses, once you've defined who you are, you have to make sure that every day you're coming at consumers with what I call a daily destination mindset. Why should they visit you today? Now that's the mindset we have to have. What can you do that nobody else can do for your world as far as your products or services? And one of the things I tell people is your marketing right now during this pandemic should not be the same as it was before March 2020. If you're doing the same marketing that you did last year, now it's not going to be effective because the consumer who you're trying to attract, they're all different. They've all been changed. They have different thoughts and fears and stresses that are happening. So you have to be thinking about what is going to bring somebody in my business today. And then ideally, tomorrow is something different, and the day before was something different from that. But you need to think that way. Now, this business owner did not attend my destination boot camp, but I just love this. It was written up in the paper. This pizza place down in Denver, several locations, has a signature item called the Big Budino. The Budino on the left is a dessert they created, and the Budino, I've got to read it here. It's butterscotch pudding with chocolate and whipped cream on top. All right, sounds pretty yummy. They rolled out not just the regular Budino, which would sell for $1.80, but the Big Budino. Now, this is a signature item. This is a reason to come to them today. Now, on November 14th, they ran this ad on their social media and Facebook. They've had it on Instagram. The Big Budino returns in 4 days, November 18th. When the Big Budino came out on on that day, they said, today's the day. They only had 12 of them available at each pizza place, at each location for $9 each. Now, why are they? This is $108. If they sell every one at every restaurant, that's $108 max. So it's not just generating the revenue, but it's generating the interest. It's getting this specialty dessert out. That's the power of thinking about the daily destination mindset and then leveraging it with signature items. Let's talk about step 4. Many of you have used these ultra services that I'm going to talk about during this pandemic. And an ultra service is step 8. Creating ultra services is in step 8 of my pyramid, where you start differentiating and making your service delivery unique to customers. So an ultra service is something that a consumer would have never expected, did not plan on, does not really deserve, but you're delivering it to them anyway. Let me tell you a little bit about this Destination Bootcamp graduate and his ultra service. So Tyler owns Mountain Mist Pool and Spas, and you guys might not know this, but in the pool and spa industry right now, if you walked into a hot tub place, spas are the same as hot tubs. If you walked into a hot tub store right now and you said, I want to buy a hot tub, they would say, very good. We can deliver it to you in 4 or 5 months. That's how backlogged they are. You know, this is part of the quarantine economy, they're calling it, where people were trapped in their houses and they looked around and said, you know, it'd be great if we had a hot tub. Well, a lot of people thought that all at the same time. So what Tyler had to do when people would come in and say, I would like to buy a hot tub, or if I went in right now and said, I'd like to have one in here by Christmas, they'd say, I'm sorry, we might have it in by May. And so what Tyler did was this. He was having to take people's money and they put a deposit down on a hot tub, and then they had to wait 4 or 5 months. Tyler had all these used hot tubs that he was picking up from people, and sometimes he'd take them in and trade, or sometimes they wanted to get rid of them. All he did is he went back and refurbished all these old hot tubs. And then what he would do is he'd say to people when they'd order and he had to give them the bad news that they weren't going to get it for 5 months, he'd say, well, you know what? We have loaner hot tubs though. And we're going to come and set this up. Now, it's not going to be your hot tub, but it's clean and it's functional and it works, and you're going to be able to relax in it. And as soon as your hot tub's ready, we will come and take this loaner hot tub away, and we'll give you your new hot tub and get it all set up for you. So his loaner hot tubs became the ultra service that caused customers to bond to his company. Here's another ultra service. This is a jewelry store that went from doing the repairs and having people come in and ask about the ring and talk about it in person. Suddenly they were doing video recordings and live videos of the rings where the jeweler was talking directly with the customer. Again, video creates a lot of power during this pandemic. Here's a business, Flowers Vineyard in Sonoma, California. One of the things they did, you know, they couldn't do the wine tastings with people all in the same tasting room, so they started doing virtual wine tastings. You could order these 3 wines. They would send it to you. Then they schedule a time when they would be talking you through as you taste the wine. You sample it with different foods, and that becomes a whole virtual experience. Same thing with this local pizza place that decided they were going to show people how to make their own pizzas. They started doing virtual pizza baking classes to do that. But this is an example of an ultra service, many times leveraged with video. The 5th thing, if you really want to get noticed these days by consumers and create that interest where they come to you, you need to do a step that I call product spotlighting. It's step 6 in the destination pyramid. It's a step where you magnify your product uniqueness. And this is something that I didn't make. I mean, none of this I made up. I just saw this. I saw businesses doing this, being hugely successful. And then basically I'm retelling the story. When I had a young guy come up to me, he was in his 20s, and he said, so you went out and interviewed over 10,000 business owners in over 600 communities. And, you just remembered the stories? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. He said, I could do that. I'm like, knock yourself out, man. Just, yeah, you could do it. You just got to take some time. Takes a little bit of time to do this. But product spotlighting is what people would use to get their businesses to have their product mix stand out. And this is relatively simple, but a lot of businesses don't think about doing it. So most businesses think about that they have selection. They just put a bunch of things in there and they hope people are going to figure out what it is, and they market individual sections and departments and things like this. But this business figured out the power of using product spotlighting. So this business was owned by Cheryl Woody. Cheryl Woody owned a business called Two Tulips. Now, when you hear the name Two Tulips, you think about it being a florist. It's not a florist. It's a wedding gift and baby gift store that also does custom invitations. Even though it sounds like a florist, and every day somebody would walk in and say, hey, do you sell flowers? Can I get a dozen roses? Cheryl kept the name, and I said, maybe you should pick another name like Babies and Brides. And she said, Cheryl said, just seems so obvious. Okay, all right. Not everybody takes my advice. One of the things Cheryl did, though, she was at our boot camp the second time. She took the first time, and then she reattended the second time. And at the second time she was in the class, she said to me, John, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make, and I call this a micro niche product line. You take a narrow category of product and you explode it. You expand it beyond what would normally be common sense for this industry. So Cheryl, in her baby store, the section of her that was her baby store, she sold piggy banks. She had about 12 piggy banks. Cheryl decided, I'm going to take that section and blow it up. She created the world's largest selection of piggy banks, or as she put it in her wording, we have the biggest litter of piggy banks in North America. Now, what she did was really smart. She put it on her right wall, which 70% of the time a consumer is going to walk in the door and unknowingly glance to the right. That, of course, is if they're allowed in your business, but the dominant wall is usually on that right wall. And what Cheryl did is instead of having 12 piggy banks, she massed out about 90 piggy banks on this wall. And then she took her unique positioning for a sentence and put it up there. And this is a really powerful technique when consumers walk in your business, because they look with their right eye, they look to the right, they read the statement and they go, I've never heard of a place like this. And in those quick 7 seconds, you've caught that consumer's attention. Now, let me show you a business in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Now, this is one of the central Canadian provinces, right in the center of the north of us in the north of the United States, and this is in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Now, this business owner's never taken one of my classes, but the guy's totally brilliant. His name's Brad Hewlett. He's watched a lot of my webinars, and he always gleans so much from one of these webinars, and then goes back and just does this amazing stuff. Brad uses a product spotlighting technique called creating signature items. Now, here's what Brad did. This is his mall in Winnipeg, Manitoba. What Brad does, his business is called the Forks Trading Company. He started out by getting one of his graphic designers design some bags, some one-of-a-kind bags for him. And they drew little pictures of things that people see in Winnipeg, and he drew little words that people say in Winnipeg and places that people visit in Winnipeg. And he took all these little things that are unique to Winnipeg, Manitoba, and put them on these bags. Well, it became so popular. People started wanting to buy these bags, the gift bags that product went out in, that he took this and turned it into an entire product line. He created a Manitoban mug, speak fluent Manitoban. And he created a cutting board shaped like the city of Winnipeg. And he's got a Manitoba-isms, a dictionary you could translate when you come there. But this is what he's done, is he's created each one of these items is a signature item. Collectively, That's a micro niche item. You've already actually heard of a signature item, the Big Budino from the pizza place. Let's talk about step 6. This is something that businesses are really missing out on these days during this pandemic. In fact, I just got an email from a restaurant chain, and one of the things they said in it, this is a restaurant chain that's got restaurants all over the world, and they sent this email to me, and I don't get them that often. I get them about every 6 months from them. And this restaurant chain came and it said, we're going to get through this. We're all in this together. This is the new normal. It's not normal. We're going to struggle through this, and we're here for you, and we hope you're here for us. And you know, I can appreciate the sentiments. I've just heard it. I've heard it so many times. This kind of general COVID marketing language that people are using. If you want to have power with people, don't say the same things in different ways that everybody else is saying. Get out in front of your marketing and make it personal. I'm telling business owners right now, the power of you marketing it as an owner, or your employees or your manager putting themselves out there in the camera, in front of the spotlight, marketing it in an authentic way, has so much power with consumers these days. And only independent businesses can do this. Big chains, big franchises, they can't do this effectively. I'm always saying, I tell people, look, don't rely on what you did in the past, earlier than March 2020. You've got to come at people in a different way, and you and your employees have to deliver the message. And when you start thinking about this, here's a business owner, the lady at the bottom of the right screen, that is Kim Redeker. She's the owner of the Sweet Granada Chocolate Shop in Emporia, Kansas. You'll notice that every social media post, all the Instagram posts, they always have employees and Kim front and center in the marketing of it. But that shows that they're concerned. The way they're dressed shows that they're concerned with your safety. They also are constantly putting themselves in front, showing that they're an independent business that needs consumer support. Here's another business done in Baker City, Oregon. This is Bella in Baker City. Now, Bella carries food, coffee, wine, kitchen products, all sorts of different kitchen gadgets and different mixers and things like that, espresso machines, all this cool stuff in little Baker City, Oregon, in Eastern Oregon. Here's how Bev Calder has made her business stand out. Now, the first thing, she uses billboards a ton. And I like this because she's basically says, I'm the best kitchen store ever. That's her unique positioning statement. We're the best kitchen store ever. Now, the taglines on the left side, you can use a tagline with a unique positioning statement, but notice how they're different. This 50s little girl that she puts on all her billboards, oh my, that is a big Merlot, that's a tagline designed to make you chuckle. So they can be used in tandem, but the power comes with that individuality. Now, in all her marketing, in all her blogging, her social media posts, she always has her employees involved. Here they're recommending some of these different amber ales and meads. Here's Sarah's talking about this new pizza cheese blend they just got in. She has her people doing the presenting of this product rather than doing it a generic way. But that personal side is what it really has power these days. Let's talk about step 7. Step 7 is this. You need to increase IAT, the individual average transaction of customers during this pandemic, and increase repeat, what I call visits. And I put quotation marks around visits because they don't have to be in-person visits. They can be online visits, and they can be ways that people are coming back and making purchases. Now, in reality, there are if you know people in your community, if your business is experiencing decreases in customer traffic, decreases in revenue, there are actually very few ways to increase revenue. It's a finite number of ways. One of the ways to increase revenue during a pandemic or any other time is you increase your price. And we're seeing businesses do that. Grocery stores are doing it. Some restaurants have done it. Retail stores have done it. They're pricing things at a higher price during this pandemic, sometimes because of supply, but sometimes just to make more revenue. Now, if you're sensitive and that's not a way you want to increase your revenue of your company, maybe because of your environment or the people around you maybe have had to really cut back on their spending or their incomes have disappeared, it's important to understand other things you can do. The first thing is to impact IAT, the individual average transaction. The individual average transaction is the amount that each customer collectively spend over a certain time period. So let's say you owned a flower shop and you sold $10,000 of flowers in a month's time, and you had 1,000 people came in and they generated that $10,000. You take the 1,000 people and you divide it into 10,000, and everybody individually spent $10. That would be the individual average transaction. That's a very simple calculation here that I don't have to do with a pencil. All right. But IAT, you try to get that to go up. The other thing you have to think about is this. It's not so important that you have more and more traffic, but it is important that you convert more of the prospects into customers. So you've got to convert more of those people into higher IAT, and making sure that when people do come in or connect with you, that you're getting the sale. And you can also do this by increasing the number of customer visits. So if your typical customers come in twice a year or 3 times a year or once a week, if you can get them to come in twice a week or 3 times a week, you either in person or online, you have a chance of increasing your revenue. So those are the only variables outside of increasing your price that you really have to work with. Now I want to show you this one thing, because since March with this pandemic, I have never had one restaurant try to use a bounce back promotion on me. This is an example of a pre-COVID bounce back. A bounce back is this. It's a marketing piece that is creating an unplanned visit with your customers to come back for a repeat trip. So for example, this restaurant that you see on the screen, it's called the Ale House. It's near Mile High Stadium where the Denver Broncos play. We were in there in November. We ate there for a brunch and then went over and watched the game. And during that time period, at the very end of the meal, a waiter or waitress came out and said, "You guys are one of our best customers. We've seen you in here a lot. Here's a $20 certificate. No obligation to purchase anything, but $20. And come on back. We want you to, it's just a gift for you to come back sometime before the end of February." So they knew Christmas was coming, and they knew the Broncos season was coming to an end. So they're driving me back for an unplanned visit. Normally I wouldn't have come, but they're driving me back for an unplanned visit. Now the thing about this is, as soon as you give it, the consumer feels great. They're like, "Oh, I got $20, but you really haven't done that. All you've done is defer the money forward, but they are now thinking about, when can I get back? When can I come back for that bounce back? Now let's talk about another way to increase IAT and conversions. This is a tool called Comment Sold. If you haven't heard of Comment Sold, it's used by all sorts of retail stores, by chefs, by women's clothing stores, by home decor stores, and now it's starting being used by hockey teams and others, all sorts of different businesses that are figuring out how to use this tool. What it is, it's a software integration system that integrates with Facebook Live videos and Instagram. And what it does is it automates and simplifies the whole process of billing, e-commerce, and motivating people to purchase. Now, I first heard of Comment Sold when I was in a small Midwestern town, and I was getting ready to do a 2-day workshop, and a lady came up to me and said, "John, this is great you're here. I'm going to be in your workshop all day." But she said, "I got to tell you, I only get about 30 people a month in my store, and I'm still doing $2 million a year." 30 people a month, and you're doing $2 million? She goes, "Yeah, almost all of it's online. I use this tool called Comment Sold." Comment Sold is a system that was built by a software genius he's in Huntsville, Alabama, and he helped his then girlfriend, who became fiance, became a wife, automate the process of online selling. Think about what if you could make your Facebook Live and your Instagram posts actually generate a lot of revenue and make it really simple for you. You didn't have to chase people down for a credit card. You didn't have to put something aside and then you're calling them, waiting for them to pick it up. You had a whole process to automate that. Comment Sold is what they call social selling. After I heard that from the lady who was doing $2 million with only 30 people coming in her business, I hunted down Comments Sold and did an interview with Carolyn Williamson. Now, Carolyn Williamson, I did a 17-minute video kind of introducing people to the ideas of Comments Sold and this powerful tool and how it's changing people. This is a tool that business owners during this pandemic have come back to me and said, Jon, you got to talk about this tool. You got to tell people how to use this tool, because we had businesses that were literally shut down part of March, all of April, all of May, and they came back to me and said, I generated more revenue during my April and May than I did during any holiday time period in the last 10 years. When nobody was coming in their doors, they were selling through Comments Sold. Last week, I interviewed this gentleman in the upper left-hand corner as a person named Michael Brooks. We did an hour-long interview that I recorded and I'm making available to you. It's on my Successful Independent Business website. It's in the right column, the right trending column. You can watch this interview. But Michael took people through some of these advanced features of Comments Sold. Now, this is a game changer. This is a tool that right now business owners are accelerating their sales and they're simplifying the whole process of selling online. So when I have businesses say to me, yeah, I need to start selling online, what should I do? I'm like, Comments Sold will help you set up an e-commerce site. They will show you how to motivate your customers and be trained in this. They will help set this whole thing up for you. This is the way that I would go if I was really wanting to have a strong foot into the world of e-commerce selling. And watch the 2 videos that are at Successful Independent Business, and there's a link there. You can talk directly to Mike at Comments Sold. He's taken all of our calls, and Mike's up in Fargo, so he's in Fargo, up in the Fargo in the Dakotas. So when you talk to him, ask him about the movie. That's what I did. Now, one of the business owners from Denison, Texas, was Ron Nell, and she owns Zelda Rose Boutique. One of the things she uses Comments Sold to do her selling. Didn't always, but now it's much more simple for her. But one of the things she did, which is really, really powerful, and we're seeing more and more people do this, is she combined it with a Facebook private group. And so now when she posts something in that private group, it goes to all of her members. In fact, what she has done, this is I love this post with Ronell out in front of her business. She was doing a Tuesday live sale. She announced it on Facebook, and she said, by the way, if you invite 3 friends to join the group before 2 p.m. today, you're going to get $10 off your order. So all these other female customers that are in this private group are going out and recruiting new people so they can get the $10 off, and Ronell's database is growing. Here's Ronell working in her store on the Comments Sold app, and it is so much more simple than having to chase customers down for credit cards and all those things. And I don't know if Ronell's on this call, but any of you who are at the end of the time period, we take questions here in a second, feel free to jump in and chime in about it. But I just found it to be a game changer. All right, let's talk about step 8. One of the keys I see businesses neglecting to do right now is to really focus on selling high profit margin products. And when you talk about this, I hear consultants all the time right now that are talking about, this one person in particular is always talking about cash is king. Well, if you're really trying to drive revenue in your business and you're trying to drive profits in your business, cash is great. It's important to have cash, and it's important to have your expenses under control. But more importantly is, if you want to drive more revenue and profits, you've got to impact your profit margin. You've got to increase the profit margin of your products in order to do that. And that will impact your bottom line much more than controlling expenses. Just do a break-even analysis and you can see that. One of the things that a typical selling sentence might be when you interacted with the consumer pre-COVID might be, what else can we get for you today? What we now need to be doing is saying, oh, by the way, have you seen our new this? And you're directing them to high profit margin products that you want to sell them. When we talk about this, how do you generate more profit margin? One of the easiest ways to do that is you create a tiered pricing system. And I'm going to show you an example of that. And the other way is you bundle products together. I'll show you an example of bundling products. Now you say, what's a tiered pricing system? We've all had it happen to us. We've all gone through a drive-through and we want to buy a Big Mac. So I'd like to get a Big Mac, please, you say into the speaker, and they say, would you like a meal? They're tiering you. They're using a tiered system to get you to pay more money and buy higher profit margin items. They say, would you like it to be a meal? You say, well, yeah, I will take a meal. I'll take the fries and I'll take a drink. And they say, what kind of drink? You tell them and they say, would you like it supersized? They've now taken you from the hamburger to the next level, the meal, to the supersize, the most profitable level for them. When you're paying much more money, but what they're actually contributing in cost is less. I love this. I love this profit margin product, this tiered combination product from Pizza Hut. When the pandemic, they rolled this out. It's called a Big Dinner Box. It's got a pizza. It's got breadsticks and wings. So if you're paying attention, you're getting bread with cheese, bread, and then chicken with bread. But super high profit margin. Looks like you're getting a lot of stuff, getting a lot of bread. High profit margin, tiered product, but it's also a product that they've combined these things together. Let me show you this one liquor store that did this really great coordinated marketing event. But what they've done is they've done this combination of products together to build profit margin. The store is in Arvada, Colorado, downtown Arvada, Colorado, called Spirit Wine Provisions. And this owner, when the pandemic hit and all the restaurants shut down and all the bars shut down, went around to the different bars and went to all of the bartenders of the different bars and said, I need you to do a video of your favorite drink, the favorite way you make a favorite alcoholic drink. So this bartender's name's Jennifer, and Jennifer did what they called them, the owners call this the Quarantinis. This is Quarantini number 1, Jen's Manhattan. And what they did is they taped Jennifer doing this Manhattan, and as she's putting the different products in, they then took those products and packaged it as a kit. So here you could buy the $75 Manhattan cocktail kit. And by the way, when you watch Jen's video, if you think it's really good, you can tip her. You can send a Venmo tip, that payment app. You can send her a Venmo tip. There's her address right here. But that was kind of a fun way that they created this higher profit margin product, but they also helped out the businesses and the bartenders who were out of business. All right. Let's talk about our last step before we take questions. Step number 9. It's important right now to proactively target your top customers. And when I say that, those of you who have been through my Destination Bootcamp, one of the things I say is emphasize is you've really got to identify who your top 10% customers are. Very specifically identify who those people are. Are they businesses? Are they consumers? If they're a business, what type of business? If it's a consumer, what are the qualities of that consumer? And then as you start then hitting your individual marketplaces, start going out into the different time zones to seek those customers out. So your top 10% customers are always customers that with the most minimal amount of marketing, you can pull these customers in that are going to way disproportionately make up for your marketing investment. They're going to spend a lot. Or as one business owner used to say to me, my top 10% customers, when they walk in, my rent's paid. That's the kind of customer you want. Now, your existing customers might be top 10% customers. Some of them might be. But don't forget, there's probably more customers out there in the world who have never heard about you that could be really good top 10% customers if you can reach them. So this next tool is going to help you do that. Now, your existing customers, don't forget about them. We often think that our existing customers, and hopefully you've got a database to be able to reach out to your existing customers. We always think our existing customers know everything that we do, all the products and services we offer. They don't. They're overloaded. They're stressed. They forget. They don't pay attention. Your marketing falls on deaf ears. You've got to constantly be going back to those customers with, here's a product we have, here's a product we have, here's a product we have, here's a product, and you're going to think it's redundant. You're going to think that you're saying the same thing, and you're like, doesn't everybody know this? Nope, they don't. And so don't forget to go after those existing customers again and again and again. This ties into that daily destination mindset, continually feeding up new products to them, especially if your products or services are very wide and very vast. Now, one of the businesses that came from Denison, Texas, was Derek Roberts' business, Pop Around the Corner. And Derek had did different flavored popcorn. He has popcorn, cheese flavored popcorn. He's got cheese and caramel flavored popcorn. He's got one that key lime popcorn. He's got banana pudding popcorn. He's got all spicy popcorn. He's got all these different flavors. He's in Denison, Texas, small town in Denison, Texas, small city in Denison, Texas. And of course, most of his customers are local. But during the pandemic, he went and said, who are my top 10% customers? Who are the people that really need something sweet and salty and tasty that are really, really stressed right now? Where are those people? And what Derek decided, he said, I'm going to advertise where the pandemic is really hitting him. So down in Denison, Texas, he started running ads in New York City, in Long Island, in the Bronx, in Seattle, the places that were first impacted by the pandemic. And they started shipping popcorn all over the country with brand new customers, brand new top 10% customers that could afford the popcorn, that wanted it to be shipped to them, that were locked in. Great, great response. By the way, Derek tells me that the people in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, they love banana pudding popcorn, banana pudding flavored popcorn. That's one of the things they discovered. But all these new customers simply by targeting it through social media. Now, here's another way that's not social media targeting, but this is a powerful tool. In fact, this is a tool that helped businesses back in 2008 when the recession happened to really get through it. If you're not familiar with infousa.com or infocanada.ca, those are the two websites for the largest business and consumer database company in North America. And one of the things that you can do with InfoUSA is not only can you request mailing lists, and people say, oh, I can't believe John's talking about direct mailing. There is no more powerful targeted form of demographic focusing on consumers than direct mail using InfoUSA. In fact, here's a tool they've got. They have a tool called a cloning tool. So what you can do is this. Let's say I'm your best customer. Or let's say you say, oh, I want more customers like Jon Schallert. If you took my name, Jon Schallert, 321 Main Street, Longmont, Colorado, 80502, you sent my address into InfoUSA and you said, I want Jon Schallert cloned. What they will do is type my address in. They will demographically find me. They will pull up all the stuff that they probably shouldn't have, but they do. They know my age. They know my education level. They know our income level. They know all this stuff about the house we live in. They know my interests. They know all this stuff. You could then say, I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I want to go out 100 miles, and I want to clone that customer, that Jon Schallert, in my marketplace. You can say, I want everybody who matches that demographic profile of that customer within 100 miles of me. Now, what you would do, how this would work for all of you is you wouldn't use me. I mean, I'm going to be a poor example, but you can take your top customers. You could take your top 5, your top 10, your top 20 customers, put them on an Excel spreadsheet and send it to them. And they will demographically profile those people who are already coming in your business, who are already making very substantial purchases, because almost all of us remember and know who our top customers are. You could actually be cloning them, going way out beyond your marketplace into all those other time zones. By the way, when you work with InfoUSA, we've got one guy that normally a company like me would get a commission. We don't want the commission. We pass that along to you. So when you call Steve, he's our connection. Just tell him you heard about me. You heard about InfoUSA through me, and he passes along on almost all the lists a 30% discount. Okay, so I've bombed through these 9 things. I want to give you this contact information now before any of you, depart during the questions and answers. Here's my email address, js@jonschallert.com. That comes right into my computer, not screened out, anything like that. So if you, and here are 2 website addresses that are most valuable for you, jonschallert.com and destinationbootcamp.com. But if you have successes or feedback or challenges or questions after this or during this, you can shoot them to me. You don't have to say it in front of everybody, but you shoot a question to me, or a success or a challenge, or a business in your community that's really having a problem, send it to me. Or you have somebody who's really successful, I'd like to know about it. Shoot it to my email address and I will personally respond. Now, I told you at the beginning that I was going to give you a promotion code for our upcoming destination boot camps. We've got 2 boot camps in February and March of 2021. And here's a promotion code. Right now, if you go, it's got the regular price of our destination boot camps that we always charge. But if you use this promotion code, 400, that's 400, capital D, like a 400 discount, you're going to get a $400 discount on your tuition, but you have to register for one of these 2 classes, the February or March boot camp, by December 11th at 5 o'clock. So if you have somebody or you've never attended the boot camp or you'd like to attend, this is going to be the lowest price we ever offer. And it's only, this promotion code only is for people who have heard this video, or of course, if you go home and share it with your neighbor, then they can use it too. All right. All right. By the way, if you're going to send a whole group from your community and be part of their community reinvention program, that's not included. That is a separate price, and it's got all separate services. That's what Denison, Texas did. All right. By the way, what I've done today is bounce around with these 9 steps. You can actually have a customized 2-hour COVID-19 business strategy town hall designed for your individual community or your association and your own people's individual questions too. And then I want to make sure you go to Successful Independent Business and make sure you go to that trending section. That's where you're going to see the 2 COVID webinars. And if you go down into the trending section, you're going to see the world's funniest takeout video. That's 40 seconds. It's 40 seconds long. It is hilarious. You're going to love it. And then on the left side of the screen, we talked about the Destination Creation course. This is the course that I don't teach. I mean, it's my material. It's my webinars that you'd listen to, but we have 58 facilitators, some of them on this call, where you could actually take a class right now. There are classes that are going on right now. You don't have to wait for me. You can actually start learning this stuff right now. And we've got a new map where you can zone in and you can see who the facilitators are in your area or your state. So you can pick one like that, and the classes are listed right there. All right. All right. I'm going to stop screen share, and it's time to take some questions. So, oh, look at all the people. Oh, we do have lots of people. I got 2 screens. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 7. We got about 100 people. Got like 98 people on the call. All right. So if you'd like to ask a question, you've got to unmute yourself. I see, it's fun. It's fun to watch people in their little boxes when they're talking to each other. I'm watching Steve there. Steve's muted, so I can't hear him. But hi, Steph.
I got a question, John.
Go ahead, Mr. Ritter.
During this time when, for instance, the grill this winter, our capacity is restricted, what recommendations do you have to, get more of the top 10 customers and less of the $3 beer customers?
Okay. So, first you've got, your area, we're located in Granby, where we've got mountain roads and snow and different things like this. You can pretty much zoom out and do it by distance. And you could do that through the Postal Service. You could actually do a direct mail targeting piece. You could actually target within a 30-minute drive of you. You could target and identify the area, and then go back to like an infousa.com and say, by the way, I only want to hit people that I know are in their houses year round, or I only want to hit people who have homes that are valued at $500,000 or more, if you wanted to go for a higher end customer. So InfoUSA has over 49 different criteria to target consumers. So you can really narrow that down. But you can do that with Facebook too. You can say, I only want my ads to appear for this type of demographic. If you go down into the ads manager, so I don't know how to do it. I have a social media person that does that for me, but you could actually, show up in the feed of people who live up here. Like I'm about 15 minutes from Mike's restaurant. I didn't even know you were open, So you've got to reach out and let people know first you're open, and then you're going to have, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to lead with your signature items. I mean, people, the beer should be the add-on, coming over for the $3 beer. So it might be that the people who are doing the golfing, who are coming in, who know that you're available, who are buying the $3 beer, they might not be really top 10% customers. They might be top 10% golfing customers, but they might not be top 10% eating customers.
Right. Okay.
That makes sense?
Thanks. Mhm.
Other questions?
John, I have a question.
Go ahead, Susan.
We're in the bar nightclub industry. We're under a lot more restrictions maybe than your average chocolate shop or donut shop or
Sure.
so what would be the single most important thing that I should be doing right now to prepare for the days ahead, potentially in 2021, when consumer confidence returns to the bar and nightclub industry and those restrictions lift?
Well, what drives uniqueness, Susan, and we've met in person. We met when I came and spoke in Abilene, and met you and your husband. The one of the things that drives uniqueness and pulls people from a greater distance is as you're working on signature items, unique services, interior changes that you'd make that people would come in and ooh and ah. That's where we talk about using monuments and other types of interior design things. I mean, right now, with most businesses that are really impacted like you, they're not making investments in those things, but it does give you this time period. It does give you this kind of down time period that you can really start planning. Are you allowed to do takeout alcohol?
Well, we are allowed to do curbside. In Kansas, it's a little odd. You have to actually open and reseal the package. And then you have some requirements about the type of packaging. Unfortunately, I don't do a lot of high-end anything. I sell on volume to, 300 or 400 people a night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not anymore.
Right.
So you should not drive to my curbside to buy a pre-opened bottle of Bud Light. I mean, it's just not a good use of my time or your money.
Right. So your products, if we actually sat down and said, how are your products unique and one of a kind? If we went through your product spotlighting section, you're going to be coming out on the side of they're pretty much like everybody else's. That's where your product differentiation has to start being enhanced, and you can start increasing your prices there. And maybe it means that you have one set of kind of generic products, but you start developing this other set of products. I think of a restaurant. There's a restaurant that did that takeout video. It's called AKA Kitchen in Loveland, Colorado. They've got, they have to-go margaritas. I mean, and they're in buckets. So you can bring it back to your house, and serve 4 or 5 people. Their margaritas are amazing. But I guess if I'm here with Peggy, I'd probably need a bucket. Now I'm not close to them to go and get it, but it's something that you could be doing. You have more restrictions than we do in Colorado. There's actually a place that does drive-by shots in Colorado, which I don't really. My son and daughter-in-law go through this place and do drive-by shots, and I just imagine they're not making it home, So, but yeah, they have some advantages than you. And of course, if you guys are ever in Colorado, you'll learn that one of our essential businesses, we have essential businesses that are, contractors and doctors and places like that, and our pot shops are essential businesses. So, yeah, if you come to Colorado, man, you better not. They about had a riot when people wanted to close the pot shops.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else has a question?
John, I've got a question.
Go ahead, Steve.
One of our taglines is "We only sell what we grow," which separates us at the farmers markets and such, because people know right where it comes from. On the other hand, we have a highly variable supply, which really limits, even our online sales, but our in-person sales as well. And that's a real big hang-up for us, that we're not quite sure how to get over that hurdle.
You know, that's where your pivot, Steve. You know, and I didn't recognize you when you're not behind your booth. You know, now this is Steve Ela. He's the Colorado's. Let me see if I can do your unique positioning statement. You're Colorado's oldest certified organic orchard. Would that be right? Am I close?
Not quite. We're the first, I have to get this right, certified organic fourth generation.
Certified organic fourth generation
Colorado.
orchard. That's right. Yep. Yep. Steve, so your pivot, you know, your pivot's more of a leap. And so one of the things that the pivot means is, especially when you're going into a new venture, is that you try not to go from where you are now to something really drastic over here. You know, try not to go from like an A to Z or A to T. You know, what you try to do is you try to say, what can we do that would be more available, that maybe we manufacture ourselves? Maybe it's not part of what your core expertise is right now. What's something else that we could do that would be that we could try, not in a big way, and see what the response is with our core customers? So that's the pivot talks about you start here and you take a step and you evaluate whether you are successful or you fail really quickly. And if you fail, if you, let's say you decide to roll out a cookbook, or let's say you decide to roll out some kind of video cooking classes or some kind of canning classes, or, you know, you'd have to be creative to come up with what are those other directions you might consider. You then, if it's not successful, you take a step back and you go, let's pivot in this direction, and you go over here. So I'm not sure what those things would be. I mean, your seasonal fruit and, you know, seasonal products, and dependent upon the, you know, farms are always dependent upon those products, but it's that diversification that everyone's having to go through right now, you know, where they're having to take that step back and say, you know, what else that other people are not doing, you know, could I be doing? Is that helpful at all?
Sure. Yeah, it's something we just, you know, it's, you know, the take home always from your, boot camps is getting, well, not having burnout and delegating responsibilities. And, you know, we struggle with that with with the seasonal variable crop loads, because we can't always, you know, keep somebody employed. But I think, we are thinking about, as you say, those pivots and how we can have a less seasonal income. And if we have a crop failure, you know, where do we may not bring in the total income we've had, but at least still have some security. So I think it's a good point.
The worst part is that many of you who are in individual different industries, is that you typically learn from somebody who's in the same industry. And this is not where you're going to learn to pivot. In fact, restaurants right now are looking to other restaurants, and everybody's doing the same thing. So you have to actually look outside your industry to see where that's going, where those other things that you can see in somebody else's industry, and say, you know, how do I apply this over here? It's generally not going to be by looking at your neighbors who are in your, you know, even though your farm is kind of a leading edge one in the state of Colorado, it's probably not going to be by looking at somebody in that same industry. It's going to be by looking at somebody in an entirely different industry and cross-pollinating your idea over here, if that makes sense. Other questions? Elsie, do you want to say anything about your grant and going online and everything you went through?
Sure, be happy to. You know, the business that I'm in, it's kind of a home decor store, but we also offer chalk paint and things for people to do and projects and things like that. So I think what helped us in our industry and for me was that we were behind locked doors, and I lost all that income coming in for classes. But I thought, okay, we'll make kits and we'll curbside deliver to them, and then they can click on the link to the video that we share with them. And so we were able to generate some of that revenue lost from that. So that was very helpful. But at the beginning of the COVID, when we had to shut down, we were not online. We had a website, but then we were lucky enough to, we went virtual everywhere we could. And that really was, that was our saving grace. I mean, I would do virtual shopping. We did Zoom classes. So they would pick the kid up and then we would do a Zoom class with them too. I was able to do that faster than I would have been able to before because of the e-commerce grant, which was amazing. We just happen to be in one of the most amazing cities, and the city leadership is awesome. And that's one reason why so many of us from Denison were able to take advantage of going to your boot camp, John. And they've just been so supportive in every way that's possible. And so I would say the virtual stuff for us has been a savings grace. But, you know, we did a lot of curbside. We just put ourselves out there, and I committed to do a couple of live how-tos during the week that were free for people. They didn't have to purchase anything, but it piqued their interest in what we offered. And so we were lucky enough that we have a product that's our DIY paint and our transfers and our IOD product that people were quarantined at home and looking for things to do. And so all we had to do was figure out how do we get it to them and how do they pay for it.
That's
and
great.
So that was part of the e-commerce for us too, being able to get to a point of sale system that integrated all of our social media platforms. And we've launched a YouTube channel with some how-to videos. Now that people are able to come back into the shop with some, you know, some safety parameters and things like that too. We did do a class, but it's just so hard with having to social distance 6 feet apart. And so what we've launched is a make it and take it bar. So they can watch a video here. I think you showed that picture earlier. They can sit at the paint bar and they can pick what project they want to do. And we're here to answer questions, but it's an additional stream of revenue for us that I don't have to stand there and teach somebody to do. It's on a video. Yeah, and great. They get to come in for, you know, and we've tiered it for, you know, from $4 to $20 and the in between. So I'm sorry, my internet's kind of messed up here. Can you hear me? Anyway,
yeah,
so we've just pivoted and shifted in ways that we you know, could use the tools from the e-commerce grant to be able to do that. So it's been huge. And I'm so not bragging. I know everybody's in different levels of where they are, but because of Jon's training, I just want y'all to know that the fire almost put me out of business. Within 36 days of coming back from his boot camp, we were in a temporary location, and we have doubled our monthly sales since November of last year, and it's continued. And I am one of the lucky ones where we made more money behind a locked door during COVID than we did last year with an open door. And it's just tools that we've used from Jon. I don't use all the tools. I still need a lot of help and learn a lot more things, but it's been amazing. It really has.
Do you use Comment Sold? Do you use Comment Sold?
We do not. That was one thing that we looked at, but right now we actually do seasonal, what we consider seasonal Facebook Live sales. And we're set up our business model is our product, and then we have about 30 creative folks. And so we just try to pull at least 120 items, and we just do a Facebook Live sale. We've got 2 underneath our belt this fall, and we just had another one, and they're hugely successful. But it's the same premise as the Comment Sold. We just haven't gone in and committed to doing that. I'm not sure we do it enough to commit to the Comment Sold, but it's the same concept. And the beautiful thing about that is people can still come in our shop right now. So when they come in to pick up their product and pay for it, they buy more.
Elsie, one of the things you didn't say, and I'll just kind of wrap up with this. There are a lot of people in Denison who use Comment Sold. So one of the things Elsie also shared with me is that she felt like there might be a lot of people using that exact same tool in town and didn't necessarily want to duplicate it. So I don't think that's it. Any other questions from anybody else? Just unmute yourself and yell it out.
I want to say, Jon, thanks a lot. I might email you some questions, but I've got to go down to the shop. So
bye, Gigi.
Bye. Great to see you.
Anybody else? All right. So let's see. Before you guys get off, let me go back just so you've got this. If you've got follow-up questions, again, you didn't get something answered, you want to send something to me personally, there's my email address. It comes right into me. Love to see some of you who have not attended be at our next destination boot camps and take advantage of that promotion. But I'd like to hear feedback on this session. I want to hear about your successes. If you have challenges, things you didn't want to talk about, feel free to email me with that email above. But everybody, it's fun seeing a lot of faces that are familiar and people that I haven't seen ever. And we had about 100 here. Okay, so you guys, I will be sending out a link with your notes and a link with this video. Feel free to share it. That's what it's there for, so people can learn from it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, John. You are the best.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Mark.